There'd be no tomorrow, that would have been it. "I'll reward you, young friend," said old Kermit, "that's what. With all my life savings, every last thing I've got. But things like old shoes or a broken jackknife couldn't repay him for saving my life. The ideal reward would be a new bike. There's something, I'm sure, that a small boy would like. Yet how can a crab ever buy a bicycle without any money, not even a nickel?" He pondered the problem the whole afternoon, then far into the night by the light of the moon. But try as he might, alas and alack, he thought of no way he could pay the boy back. The next afternoon, as he crawled on the rocks, Kermit spotted the boy. You see Kermit? I don't see Kermit. Where's Kermit?
He's down in the sea.
Oh. Kermit spotted the boy at the end of the docks. The very same boy the crab could tell that by the faded striped shirt and the tattered straw hat. He had been lulled to sleep by the warm summer breeze, with his fishing pole propped on his patched trouser knees. I might help him to catch a big fish," Kermit thought, "if there's any big fish around here to be caught." "Garner, we heard you caught a big fish recently. That's exciting." Of course, he must first find the boy's baited hook, so he scrambled out into the bay for a look. Just a few yards away from the pilings he found it, with a school of small minnows all swarming around it. Lightly gripping the line just below the lead weight, Kermit tiptoed along gently, dragging the bait. If he happened to give it the least little jerk, the boy would reel in and his plan wouldn't work. So Kermit kept on till he came to a ledge, where he stopped to peer cautiously over the edge. Then, reaching as far as he could with his claws, he lowered the bait towards a halibut's jaws. The big fish took a look, and in one mighty scoop, both the worm and the hook disappeared in one whoop. When he found he'd been hooked, he took off like a streak, and the line, which was really too flimsy and weak, suddenly snapped from the force of the shot. Somewhere behind Kermit, back near the dock. He was on his own now, with no one to help, and off he went flying through tangles of kelp. Up over the waves he went floppity-flip, straight out of the bay on a wild foamy trip. Then somewhere far out in the broad rolling sea, the furious fish finally fought his way free. Way out in deep water the crab couldn't crawl. About all he could do was let himself fall. And Kermit went tumbling down in slow motion into the dark, gloomy depths of the ocean, to the soft, sandy floor, where he lit with a plunk near the place where an old pirate ship had been sunk. The huge hull had been smashed, all the sails ripped and tattered, and in every direction the cargo was scattered.
I didn't say pirate.
"I imagine," said Kermit, "I'm not safe down here. There's much more to this place than the weird atmosphere." Some creature was watching, the old crab could tell, by the cold, creepy feeling that ran through his shell. Crouching flat in the sand, he peered into the dark. He suddenly saw it, a monstrous blue shark. As the shark wheeled around for a head-on attack, Kermit spied an old chest that was open a crack. He got there a second before the shark did, and in a wild scramble squeezed under the lid. Pushing hard with his snout, the big fish tried his best to force up the lid of the heavy old chest. He lunged with a fury and all the brute strength of his broad fins and tail and his 20-foot length. But the lid's double hinges were solid with rust and a century's thickness of barnacle crust. So the crab stayed within while the shark stayed without. All he got for his pains was a badly bruised snout. And he finally turned tail. Then away he went tearing in search of a school of sardines or some herring. Not until he was sure the big shark was long gone did Kermit look down to see what he sat on. The old chest was filled pretty near to the top with heaps of gold pieces that made his eyes pop. "How strange," Kermit muttered. "No one's found it before. It can't be much more than 2 miles from shore. But anyway, all this gold treasure is mine now, if I just haul it back from my castle to my castle somehow." With a coin in each claw, he set off out for the bay, with his life in great danger each step of the way. Not only the shark, other big fish as well, can easily bite through a crab's crusty shell. To avoid being caught by these crab-hungry enemies, he scuttled behind the dense clumps of anemones. Here the deep shadows were mostly blue-green, so a bluish-green crab there could scarcely be seen. Every day for 3 months, Kermit made the round trip, returning each time with 2 coins in his grip. To make room for the treasure, he emptied his cave of the rubble he'd gone to such trouble to save. After stacking the gold into one gleaming pile, his crusty face cracked in a satisfied smile. He was thinking of all the great pleasure and fun such a treasure would bring to a certain someone. Then he crawled from the cave for a view of the bay in hopes he'd find his young friend there that day. Since the dock was deserted, he looked towards the shore, where he spied some small boys, 6 or more, tall ones and scrawny ones, one who was fat, but not one of them wore a striped shirt or straw hat. But his young friend might wear something else altogether, since the winter had come with its cold, foggy weather. But anyway, Kermit thought, what could I do? Just walk up and say, "Here's a present for you"? Then he heaved such a deep and most sorrowful sigh, he attracted a pelican roosting nearby. "Now cheer up, old fellow," the big bird began, smiling as only a pelican can. "If you've got a problem, please let me suggest you tell it to me and get the thing off your chest." No one could resist such a big friendly smile, so the crab told his tale to him after a while, showed all the gold where he came to the end, and then tried to describe his heroic young friend. "That boy," said the bird, "is